Alrighty, good morning, everybody. It's Monday, July 25th, 2022, coming into the end of July here. Want to quickly just mention some of the news we've got this week. We have the FOMC announcement on Wednesday, so we could see the market be fairly ambivalent and sideways like it's been for a few days now of last week coming into that FOMC announcement. Also be aware that so today there's really not much going on as far as planned news goes, but tomorrow we will have some potential uh, movement in the market right around about 30 minutes after the open. We have consumer confidence, new home sales. The FOMC meeting is going to begin there tomorrow. And then again, we have the FOMC announcement on Wednesday. Also on Wednesday morning, we have a few things. So as we go into the beginning of the week, we'll talk about this stuff a little bit more. But the main thing to note is that not much going on from a planned news perspective this morning. But on Wednesday, that is the big FOMC announcement that it seems like everyone is waiting for. And then we'll talk about news as we get into the end of the week. There are a couple interesting things to be aware of. So I will try to remind you guys as we go into the open at the end of the week there. So outside of that, let's go right into the charts. And what I'd like to do is just take a peruse of the higher time frames. So, the annual probably not worth looking at. Here is our 3 month or quarterly chart. And again, looking off of the lows that we made. And remember, the lows in the market for this year were somewhere right around 36.39. And this happened, I want to say, let's go back to the daily chart here. This happened probably 4 weeks ago. We made that major low back on June 17th. And then from there, we've been attempting to bounce back up. So if we look at that low from a 3 month perspective, we did get a really nice potential bullish divergence forming here that we've been talking about for a long time. So this candle opened in, let's see, at the end of May there. So going into June, this candle opened. And then again, by about 2 or 3 weeks into June, we made that low and we were watching this signal. So it's still there. So that's all I want to mention up on the quarterly side of things. And then down on the monthly, we have the same exact pattern from that low of June 17th. So these higher time frames have all been giving us bullish clues ever since we made that low on June 17th. And ever since we made that low on June 17th, the market has definitely been attempting to bounce back up and come retest the highs of, let's see, of June here. So far, as you guys can see, let me zoom down to like a daily chart. You can see we bounced June 17th, and then they've been trying to push, and it's been a back and forth battle for a month now, maybe a little over a month. It's been kind of an attempt by the bulls to push, and then the bears come right back in. They bring it back to the lows, and it's been back and forth for quite a while. So that's kind of the zoomed out perspective that we have coming into this week here at the end of July. Let me see on the weekly here. The weekly also gave us a bullish divergence back from June 17th low. So basically everything up top, the weekly, the monthly, and the quarterly all gave us bullish clues. And you can see that we've been trying to break out to the upside for a long time now. Let's go down into the daily chart. And the main thing that we're going to want to pay attention to this morning is that we do have a daily bearish signal from the high of Friday, back on whatever that was, June 22nd now, or July 22nd. And we do have not only the daily, but if we go down, we've got a nice 4-hour bearish signal from the high of Friday. And we also have a nice hourly bearish signal from the high of Friday, which is 40.16 quarter. And just kind of an interesting thing to point out here, as the market pushed higher, what were the levels we talked about up here? We talked about this level right here at 4,006, and then this level here at 4,016. And what was the high of Friday? 4,016 quarter. So We did actually, and it's if we zoom down to shorter time frames so you can see what was happening within here, we had a beautiful push right to 4016, which was our expected resistance level there, and then we pulled back and bounced up and came right into the second one at 4006 here, broke it by a few ticks, and then sold off here coming into the end of Friday and into our overnight session here coming into this morning. So beautiful hold of all of these levels we've been watching pretty much to the tick, which still blows my mind. And so I just want to mention that from that 16 level, 4016, we do have the daily, we do have the 4-hour, and we do have the hourly giving a nice bearish divergence, which, as you guys know, we've seen in the past, every time we get a nice confluence of those three time frames, we typically do see a pretty good move. Now, the question this morning is going to be, how far are the bears going to take this now on this pullback here? We have gotten a nice pullback from the high of Friday. They sold off and went down to some major lows there on Friday and came down to 39.4150. So we came right back into that little pocket there, 39.40, 45, and 39.50, and hit just in front of 39.40, and now we're coming back up. So again, the question is always going to be who's going to come into power here. Are the bulls going to continue to hold the overnight lows or hold the low of Friday and go ahead and pop through the overnight high and start coming back up to test the highs up here? Or are the bears going to regain power? And again, with all of the higher time frame bearish signals from Friday's high, are they going to go ahead and sell this sucker back off or pull the market back down? And again, we don't know what the market's going to do. Everyone can add everything up and give you their best ideas as to what should happen, looking at historical data from last week and from the month, and tell you what would most likely happen. But at the end of the day, the market's going to do what it's going to do, and all we can really do here is plan out where, if the market goes to certain areas, where we could expect there to be bounces, where we could expect there to be resistance, and then just basically play back and forth between all these areas. So coming into this morning, the main thing that I'm looking at here is the high of Friday, the low of Friday, and then our overnight high here this morning. And if the bulls can go ahead and hold the market up and we don't break through the low of Friday, we could see the market start to push higher. And if that does happen, we have basically everything mapped out here in the market. So the overnight high happens to be that retracement level that we've been watching for a couple weeks now as the market attempted to bounce back higher. So if they break through that 39.88.5 and the high of the overnight session, we've got some decent levels up top here. And again, we've already come up and hit 40.16 and sold off. That was the high of Friday. And then we came up and we hit right into the bottom end of this consolidation area, I guess we can call it, and hit 4006 and failed. So if they do push through here this morning, we've got 39.97 in the way, but it's right back to 4006, right back to 4016, which was the high of Friday, and then we're up into 4023, 4030, and then this pocket that we've been watching for, again, probably maybe months now, 4042 to 4044. So if the bulls rip it this morning, these would be good areas to take profit just in case the market does push into one of these areas and get a rejection like we've seen a million times in the past. So that's what I'd be targeting here if the bulls are strong this morning and they can rip through the overnight high. On the other side of things here, if the bears do regain strength here and we break down through the low of Friday, then we're coming back into, and I got to mention, some of the larger retracement levels we're going to pull back into here. And then outside of that, every other level on the chart should be things that you are aware of from not only last week, but the week before. So let's look at it here. So the 38% retracement is right here at 39.04 half. The 50% retracement is at 38.70, and then the 61.8 is down here at 38.35 half. That retracement leg is, if I zoom out, you can see all the way back from this major low that we made at 37.2375 here, all the way up to the high we made on Friday of last week. So that's the fib retracement leg I'm looking at. To me, it's probably the most relevant. Of course, you can zoom all the way out and see that the major low was all the way back at that 36.39. But for this very specific leg, those are the three major retracements that I think make the most sense. So be aware of those levels. And then, of course, basically, this is what I'm kind of planning on here this morning. If the low of Friday breaks, I'm going to be targeting a short all the way down to 39.22 and 39.16 half. That would be my first target if we break through the overnight low. Of course, doesn't mean it has to be a straight line. The market, just because it breaks through the overnight low, doesn't mean it's not going to come right back up and pop through back to the highs of the overnight session. But if we can appreciably get down through the previous daily low and hold, I'd be targeting 39.40 down to 39.22. And then from there, it's just step by step. If they break through the major eye level at 16.5 and that 39.22 area, we've got this really strong ledge here back from, must have been July 17th into the 18th there, where we came up into this area at 39, let me get the number, 39.09 half, and then just violently sold off for, whatever, 100, maybe, yeah, just about 100 points back lower. So coming back down into that, I can't tell you how many times I've seen the market make a nice big ledge like that, come down, break through that level, and then when it eventually comes back, gets a really strong reaction. So be aware of that 09 half if they get through the major eye level at 16 half. And then we have, the retracement level just a few points below there that, again, and the most arbitrary levels sometimes that happen to be fib retracements, it might not line up with any other price action, but a lot of times you'll see the market come down right to a fib level and literally just bounce to the tick and go for a rip right off of it, or vice versa, coming off the back end of it and then ripping lower if we were in a bounce right now. But we're not in a bounce. We're technically in a pullback or a potential pullback right now. So any further from the retracements, it's going to bring us down into all the same eye levels I've been mentioning for weeks and months now. And I don't really feel the need to actually list them out because you should already have them up on your chart. So it's basically just one by one here. If the bears come down, they cannot hold this first area I've been mentioning, then it's potential for each of these levels below us to hold. Of course, having a nice signal lining up with these levels will give us some clues as to what we would expect to happen. So if the market does come down into whatever level it happens to be, it could be the major swing high here, it could be a fib level, it could be one of our major eye levels or minor eye levels. But if they come down and we get some nice signal right at one of these levels, it might be a clue that we're going to get a bounce. But if the signals don't all line up, I'm going to expect the market to continue to sell off here. Same thing on the top end of things. If the market starts to rip higher and we push up into one of these relevant levels we've been watching, and there's a very clear bearish signal, that might be the spot where we find a rotation in the market. So that's what we're looking at coming into the open here. My main dividing line this morning is going to be the low of yesterday or low of Friday and the high of Friday. And if the market cannot appreciably get through either side, again, it could potentially be pretty choppy in here, especially as we lead up to the FOMC announcement on Wednesday. So again, we don't really know what's going to happen, but we've got all the relevant areas where we would expect to see the market turn. So those are going to be our targets and potential areas for bounces or shorts. And final thing I should mention here is looking at our daily power levels. Obviously, we have the high of Friday and the low of Friday, but we also have the close from Friday down here, right around 39.63. We have 50% of that range right here at 39.78, 75, 39.79. And then we have the orange power level. Of course, this is probably one of the best levels I've ever discovered and watched, sitting here at 39.68 half. So that is basically everything you should be aware of coming into the open. Off of the overnight high, we don't really have like a really clear signal. So a lot of times we'll come in the morning and the overnight high itself, just like the high of the day before, can get a very clear signal. And I'm telling you this morning, at least from a higher time frame perspective, I don't really have any type of 4 hour or hourly signal from the overnight high, which if I was to interpret that would tell me that there's potential for the bulls to come back up, at least test the high, if not push a little bit through it, and then maybe we'll get some type of signal. Doesn't have to happen, but typically what I'll see if we're going to fail from the overnight high, I'm going to see a nice clear 60-minute, maybe even a nice clear 4 hour bearish signal from that high to see the pullback. We don't have it right now. So again, what does that mean? There's a potential, I would think, for the market to bounce and come up and retest the overnight high, or maybe even go ahead and push through. And then maybe at that point, when we make a new high, we'll have some type of divergence. Again, nobody really knows, but I'm just giving you what the signals are saying right now. So we could see the market bounce to a higher high in comparison with the overnight high, but then the RVI turns and comes up and doesn't quite get to a new high. And in that instance, then we would have a nice lower high on RVI, higher high on price, and then maybe we'll see something fell from here. But again, these are just all, this is one potential thing that could happen out of probably a million other things. But I just want you to be aware of that. Usually when I see a failure from the overnight high, we do have an hourly and a 4 hour signal from there, and we don't quite have it here right now. So I'm a little skeptical that the overnight high is it for this morning as far as the bullish, as far as the major high here this morning. But of course, anything's possible. So even though we have signals, even though we have some clues as to what we would expect to happen based off of those signals, you never know what the market's going to do. And so that's why we just plan out our levels, map all the levels out. And if the market comes down into them and we get signals, we'll go ahead and try the levels and just go with whatever direction the big guys want to take it. So that's it for this Monday morning broadcast. If the market does break out to the upside, remember that I'm still very skeptical of any type of major bullish breakout, just considering everything going on domestically, everything going on internationally. There just doesn't seem to be any reason for the market to be pushing to new highs now. But let me zoom things out, give you one last picture here from the 4 hour perspective. If the market does break through the high of Friday, remember that's as far as we've really gotten here in what, about a month or two here. So if they break through the high of Friday, we've got this major ledge up here, which I haven't mentioned. That would be my larger target to the upside here. So if the bulls are strong and they can hold the overnight low and start ripping higher and get through that Friday high, I'd be targeting up into that 40.74 area. And there is one other level I want to mention up there. On the way to 40.74, we have a little pocket right here that I think I mentioned about 5-10 minutes ago, 40.42 to 40.44. So again, if we get up through 40.30, we've got 40.42 to 40.44, and then right up, in my opinion, not much going on until we get all the way up to 40.74 again. So I think that's basically it. So enjoy, guys. Have a great morning. We'll be here to see what we can get here out of the open. And got a couple minutes until the market opens here. So take a little bit break and then we'll get started here.